Thank you for joining. When I opened my plant app today to see what plants needed to be watered, I noticed that among the plants were some of my oldest in my collection. So what I wanted to do is talk to you today about these old plants and give you a little bit of background and about each one. When I first began the hobby, I knew that I wanted echeveria. When I was young and my mother was very much into succulents, she took me with her all the time. What I had discovered was I liked how echeveria looked because they were very much the flowers of the succulent world. So that I could have something that looked like a flower and not be a flower. I don't know why that was important to me, but it was at the time, and it kind of blossomed into a love of succulents and specifically a love of echeveria. I remember distinctly that my mother said that echeveria wouldn't grow in the house, and we did in fact have a hard time doing that. What I'll show here is that it is possible to grow echeveria in the house. What we're looking at right now is actually a hybrid. You could call it a setiveria. It's my dark elf. I believe it is like a sedum and an echeveria hybrid. I like the fact that it has grown into very odd configuration. It started out as one small singular rosette, and it started to split at the top, and it became 3 rosettes on top of a stalk, and then have babies underneath. I'm not going to separate these. I'm just going to let it grow for as long as it feels that it can. This is 2 years and about 4 months old. What I have discovered with echeveria is that sometimes they are sensitive to different conditions in the house. Sometimes that means you will experience elongating because they're not getting enough light, or you might experience root rot. This particular plant is the echeveria happy, and to me, I very often have said she doesn't look happy. It started out as 2 rosettes and grew 2 new baby rosettes. I thought that she needed more space, and I put her in a new pot. And once I did that, I found that she didn't acclimate very well. And what I've noticed is, like, a lot of the bottom leaves died and dried, and I pulled them off, and I was able to find that underneath are in fact new baby rosettes. Now they're not growing very fast, and overall it's not been a fast grower. This is another one of my oldest plants at 2 years and about 4 months old. The next plant I want to talk about is my Pearl von Nürnberg. These are very common in the hobby, and you probably have seen them. You'll be able to find them. At the time, I didn't realize how common they were. When I saw this one poor beat up rosette all by itself at Lowe's, I bought it. And then over time, it grew. And then, like a lot of succulents will do, it grew up on its stem. This is not elongating because the top is very compact. It's just the normal way that they grow. How they grow from the center, and they lose their bottom leaves and eventually look like, I don't know, strange little alien palm trees. They also don't apparently reproduce often. So I have no pups from this plant, although I do have some leaf babies, meaning I had pulled leaves off and I grew babies from the leaves. But I keep hoping that it will pup and propagate itself, but apparently that's just not common for these plants. The next plant I want to talk about is this one. This is the sedum shooting star, and this has gone through various iterations. I've cut it I've propagated it. I've overwatered it. It's lost leaves. It's hanging in there though. It was pretty much all green when I bought it, and under the lights, it is so orange. Such a beautiful plant. And recently I've had some dieback here, not entirely sure why. And it's pointing downwards instead of upwards, so you'll see where it doesn't get a lot of light, it actually is very green. And the center of that actually looks a little variegated. But anywhere the light hits it, it protects itself in light stresses and turns this gorgeous kind of autumnal color of yellow and orange. At one point I considered, cutting it again, and maybe that's something I'll do. But maybe I'll just also just keep on keeping on, see how it likes its life, and see what happens. The next plant I want to talk about is the blue elf. This is also a setivaria, like the dark elf. And what I want to show you is it's growing in a very architectural manner. It has 2 babies right now. At one point it had a set of babies that I removed, which, I don't know, they just didn't do well on their own. So I'm going to go ahead and leave these guys alone and not mess with them too much. You'll see also with this one how it loses leaves on the bottom and grows leaves from the top. There you go. Very pretty plant. It does have a very odd way of absorbing leaves. And at one point I thought my cat was chewing on it, because the leaves will do this thing where the very tips of them look almost bitten. And then it kind of absorbs away and dries off. And then you can either pick it off or let it fall off. But it does have a very nice color as well, with the light stressing. It's directly under some very strong lights. The next plant I wanted to talk about is the Sedum golden Adolphi. Okay. It's growing in a very strange manner. Like, it hasn't branched out like I might have expected. It's all clustered up. But it has grown a couple of different heads. And at one point, it seemed to outgrow the small pot that it was in, and I've repotted it into a slightly bigger pot. I will find that anytime you do that, you could expect a little bit of a stunted growth, because it's going to try to reacclimate to the pot. But once it did, it is this amazing color, and it seems to be doing well. But once again, this is an older plant, and it's taking a long time to put on any size. It did suffer at one point from mealybugs, so it had to be treated for mealybugs. And like will happen sometimes, it took a while for me to get the mealybugs under control. But it's doing well. I don't see any really bad signs of overwatering or anything, so I must have got the hang of it. The next one I want to talk about is like the most bizarre plant in my collection. It's the lilac mist. This is also a setivaria. And it just kind of grew out to the side. It looks like it's mutated. Don't quite know what to think of it. I think the yellowing on the leaves is due to the light stress that it's getting. But it also has kind of a pink look to it that's attractive, if it weren't for the real odd way that it's growing. When I got it, it was fully green, and under the lights it became this striking color. But yeah, since it's one of my older plants, I just want to keep on keeping on, see where it goes, what it does. And you'll see in the pot how sometimes I'll add some decorations to just give it some visual interest in the areas of the pot that are not filled with plant. The next one I want to talk about is another type of setivaria called Sorrento. And this has also had some ups and downs. It's had some mealybugs. It's had Some moments when I thought I might have overwatered it way too much. Some moments where I really didn't think it was going to make it. I had it in a plastic pot, and then I put it in a terracotta pot. It still loses leaves on occasion, but it's seems to be stable. One of the things that has happened to it, of course, is it's lost a lot of bottom leaves, so it looks leggy and a little strange. But I'm starting to feel like when it comes to setivaria, that's kind of par for the course. They look a little mutated, they look a little odd. They're a sedum echeveria hybrid, so it feels to me like you cannot totally be sure what it's going to do or what it's totally going to look like. And then the last one I want to talk about is my Echeveria Lola. This has been a very interesting plant over time. It started out as one rosette, which grew and grew and grew, and then it did this weird little splitting thing where it has a stalk and then the head of the Echeveria is here. What I could do with it is probably do what people call beheading, where I clip that off and I try to root the head, but I'm not going to do that. I have only really done a beheading once successfully, and I'm sure I'll show you that plant at another time. We got a couple of babies or offshoots on this. This one might be here because there was damage and these two heads formed, but this one is definitely a pup. And it's such a pretty plant overall. It's got kind of a palish green color with like pink overtones. And throughout the life cycle of this plant, even before it kind of mutated into this oddball, it's always been very, very pretty. It almost looks surrealistically unreal. Okay, so that concludes my tour of my oldest plants in my collection. I hope you enjoyed it and got a little bit more of insight into how I started and, you know, what a 2-year-old Echeveria looks like when it's grown in the house. Well, thank you for joining. Have a good rest of your day.